Um, so, so hi everyone. I'm so happy you can join us today. I am Julie Masterigo, the Director of Leadership Development at Remake. And today we're super excited to have Nika Seider with us, who is an ambassador that joined Remake in January and has really accomplished something so incredible and created a toolkit that she's going to share with all of you for how to build a thrift swap at your school or anywhere that you think this might apply. So Nika, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Wonderful, thank you. And maybe if we can pull up the slides, that would be wonderful. But thank you, Julie, and thank you, Remake, for this opportunity to share my insight and connect with you all here today. I'm going to be presenting how to build a thrift swap at your school and the tools to make it successful. In this presentation, I'm going to be talking about my experience as the founder of University of Miami's UThrift, which was created my freshman year in 2017. My goal is to provide you with what you might need to build a clothing swap and ultimately a slow fashion movement at your own school. Just before we get started, I just want to say shout out to Bianca Sotelo, who is our strategic development director that helped us expand beyond just a pop-up. Elodie, my cousin, who has always been like a #1 super fan, thanks for coming, and Olivia Baker, who is our very first volunteer and who has supported me and the UThrift mission from day one. So thank you guys for being here. And if you want to introduce yourself in the chat so that people can like have your information and you as a contact. All right, so UThrift was my passion project brought to life. In my 4 years of leadership, UThrift had over 7,500 donations, 3,200 visitors, over 100 volunteers and members, over 20 workshops and events, more than a dozen campus and local nonprofit partnerships, and we were also featured in several campus publications and national news outlets. So with that being said, I thought we could watch a short news clip from the year after I graduated, showing how UThrift has continued to grow and had a lasting impact. So Allison, if you're able to pull that up.
Can everybody see that?
We still see the slides.
Oh, okay. Let me try to pull that up one more time. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay, how's that? Good.
We have a lot of definitely a big variety of stuff.
For these college students,
It's a lot of give and take all day.
there's one word that can really draw a crowd: free.
It's all free clothing for anyone who comes. It can be students, staff, or anyone just visiting.
Anna Kuhn is president of UThrift, a student organization at the University of Miami, in a city that is known for trendy fashion.
I think Miami definitely has a lot of fashion in it.
But with fashion, and specifically cheaper fast fashion, often sold in malls and shopping centers, there can be a lot of waste.
I know that the fashion industry has like a very heavy toll on our environment, and we're kind of getting all this like advertising constantly that we need new things. It needs to be trendy, it needs to be cool, it needs to be hip.
The average piece of fast fashion clothing is worn only 7 times before it's thrown away. So a couple of years ago, students here decided to try and extend the life cycle of clothing by forming UThrift. They collect clothing donations from the university community and once a week give them away for free at this open air market on campus.
We have like an overfilled amount of stuff. Even just like what's out there isn't all the stuff we have. Just this semester, we've gotten over 3,000 donations, and we get about like 100 people coming to the stand every day.
Personally, I didn't know much about sustainability and fast fashion previously until I talked to somebody here, and I realized it was something that I wanted to be a part of.
For students, it's a win-win, getting a wardrobe refresh for free and helping the environment in the process.
My shirt and my shorts right now are both thrifted from here.
You kind of get to see like, okay, maybe you dropped off something the other week and then you have a friend that's wearing it around campus the next week, and you can kind of see it repurposed in its own way.
It's a concept they hope students at other universities around the country can feel empowered to try and do too.
It's pretty much started just from one girl being like, hey, I want to do this, and asking a bunch of her friends to like donate a couple things and just yelling out free clothes like in the middle of campus. It's fun and it's easy and it's free.
Targeting an audience that understands the value of free. In Coral Gables, Florida, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
All right, so I hope that inspired you a little bit and painted a picture of who we are and what we do. So now if we can look at the goal slides, we can begin to daydream a little bit, but make it quantitative. So start to ask yourself questions like, how many clothing swaps will you host? How often? By what date? Where's the best spot to host an event on campus? The best time of day of week to host an event? How many people will come? How many volunteers will you have? How many social media followers will you flex? And how many items will be donated and recirculated? My advice here is to start small and build big. This is just a list to begin with. Once you're navigating the campus dynamics and figuring out the flow and rhythm of things, you'll have a better idea of what realistic goals could look like for you. As a note, this is also the time to start building a small core team of people who are going to help you set this all up and accomplish these goals. So an example statement here is to host one end of the semester thrift swap 2 weeks before final exams outside the library on a Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., have 5 volunteers, 25 visitors, 50 followers, and receive and recirculate 100 donations. Next slide. So now we can move on to the why section. Why would this clothing swap make your campus community a better place? Why should people come? Why should administration support you? And why are you doing this? To help you answer those questions, I listed out some keywords to help with the mission statement process, but definitely look to Remake for additional resources and inspiration. And keep in mind that your mission statement can evolve with your scope. UThrift probably had 4 or 5 throughout my 4 years. And I have an example on the next slide of what I left it off as. So the purpose of UThrift is to promote sustainable practices and redistribute existing goods in both the Miami and University of Miami communities. UThrift provides a free thrifting platform that aims to mitigate both the environmental and societal effects of the fast fashion industry. We donate our excess inventory to local charities, and we host unique engagements with philanthropic organizations, both on and off campus. So this is a clear why we do it statement that we could use in talking to anybody for any purpose, whether that's someone new who's coming to the stand for the first time, or if we're asking for support from the university. So next slide, we can now transition into talking about how you're going to accomplish these goals. So this part is going to require some research and boots on the ground. You'll need to suss out your campus landscape. So take a step back and look at how change happens on a system level at your school. So what I mean by that is how your campus is organized. How do things get done? So I would determine the pros and cons to these following structures: an organization, a club, student government branch, a program, or a committee, or figure out who or which of these structures you would work with to plan a one-time event if we're starting there. For each of the options here that you're considering, take a look at the necessary paperwork, who signs off on it, if you need an advisor, how far in advance you need to be prepared, what amenities like storage, location, advertising are provided with each of these structures, and so on. And once you determine the route you want to go, I would recommend finding someone who took that same path successfully and asking them for their insight and experience. And again, the structure can change over time with changing needs. For example, UThrift started out as a student government project, but as we grew, we needed more storage space. And the only way to apply for a storage unit was to become our own independent student organization. So just be prepared as you can be, and also be open to being flexible. This is the part where we should be figuring out future constraints and opportunities for each of these structures. It's also a great time to make connections and talk to administration, faculty, student leaders about what they recommend. And once you have the groundwork laid out and have a better picture of what you'll be working with, you can start to work out the logistical details and the operational policy. This is going to vary depending on your needs. UThrift's operational policies included only accepting donations in person at the stand at our events. We accepted clothes, shoes, accessories, bags, books, dorm and school supplies, but we turned down undergarments, socks, and anything with rips, holes, or stains. But keep in mind, we definitely still did get these items because, for example, community members would just drop off a huge trash bag and then go on their merry way. So we had a plan of downcycling these items to places like dog shelters, textile artists, decoration for our tent and trifold boards, because the goal of a thrift swap should be to redistribute all of these items and be as close to zero waste as possible. This is also why UThrift was entirely free. It kept inventory moving in and out. The way that we operated was that community members could get one item at any time if they followed us on Instagram and gave us their email so that we could log the attendance and also put them on our monthly newsletter list and our update emails. The incentive for people to donate was if someone donated, for example, 10 items, they would get a +1 credit or 11 items. So donate 10, take 11 anytime throughout the semester. We would keep track of this credit with a Google sheet and formula that we have an example of that included their name and the amount donated and the amount they've taken so far. So if we want to pull that up, just so you have like a visual of what we were doing while we were at the actual stand, might be helpful. Thanks, Allison. So yeah, so we would just ask them for their email. If they brought 5, took 3, the formula did all the math for us. So we had this open on our laptops at every event. And at the end of the semester, we would put on our stories, emails that your credit is being wiped. So make sure to come and use it all up. So yeah, that's an example of that. And with things like that, make sure your volunteers are confident with your operational policy and know how to run the swap and know how to run the log. And make sure that your volunteers know how to communicate the overall mission statement and policy to people passing by. Every person that comes up to the stand is an opportunity to be making connections, engaging, and informing someone on what sustainable fashion is. So you want your volunteers to be as equipped and as confident as you will be. And this ensures things will run smoothly if ever you can't be there. And them being in the loop and knowledgeable will also hopefully inspire them to be more involved and take things to the next level. Next slide. So after knowing how your thrift swap is going to operate, you can start to figure out what you'll need to make it operate. So the 3 big things are going to be event space and inventory management, materials, and funding. For event space, choose somewhere that is easy to get to, central, spacious, and accessible. I recommend somewhere that you can register the event with the school so that you can block it off and reserve it, and then the school can also help you with promotion. And also when you're looking at the event reservation, are there going to be coinciding events? Will these coinciding events be pulling people in nearby and be an opportunity, or will that other event be distracting and potentially overshadow your thrift swap? So for example, UThrift, we first got our spot at a weekly farmers market, which was an opportunity for us because so many students were already casually strolling by between classes with the intention to shop. And we had the advantage of being the only free vendor there. But a coinciding event that I wouldn't recommend is perhaps during finals, because students are not going to be leisurely hanging out and in the mood to stop and chill and talk and shop. So that is something to consider for sure. Also make sure your event space is weatherproof. We were in Florida, so we would have beautiful blue skies 1 minute and then a torrential downpour the next. So be prepared for it all. And in the case you need to cancel or move locations, make sure you also have the ability to communicate that with everyone, whether that's your volunteers or the potential customers. So inventory space. In between our events, we store donations in a locker in the student center. This took us some time to get from the school. So this is a very important consideration when you're in your startup phase, where you're going to keep everything. When we first started, we were keeping our donations in our dorms. So keep this in mind and get a head start when you're able to. And this will really depend on your scope and structure. In terms of getting things from the storage unit to the event, we were provided by the school with a cart. But I also must say it is helpful to have a volunteer or team member with a car if you have a larger campus or want to do work outside of the campus or when the end of the semester rolls around. On the note of inventory, just keep track of it. So if a pair of overalls or something have been sitting in your inventory for 6 months and no one has taken it, it should probably be downcycled to avoid taking up valuable space. So that's kind of the first overhead section. The next will be materials. So other things that we used were a table, storage bins, rack, hangers, cart, signage. Make sure you're identifiable. People know who you are, what you're doing, and where to find you next. A mirror so people could take selfies. We had like our little Instagram on the mirror. So every time someone took a selfie in it, it would show where they are. A speaker for music. We had a collaborative Spotify playlist that all of our volunteers could upload songs to, and also a computer for log and attendance. So those are the essentials, and then you can ultimately build off that depending on what you decide to do. I also would say to make your space cute, decorate, craft it up. It's an opportunity to have a fun membership development event. And then the final consideration would be funding. So obviously the nature of a clothing or thrift swap is receiving items for free. So start by seeing what you can source from the community via donations or local thrift stores or places like Facebook Marketplace before you go and ball out or request items from your school. If there are still items that you need help sourcing, make an itemized list with links and a budget that you could present to the school. Because depending on the structure of your organization, you could seek funding opportunities from monetary donations, student government, administration, departments, grants, and other outside fundraising opportunities. Some school structures like clubs and organizations are able to collect monetary donations, but in my experience, there was a lot of red tape and administrative hurdles with that, which is why we kept everything free. But just ask your school leaders and campus community. They will definitely have inspiration and resources in securing funding. You can do this for super cheap or even free. And you'll be surprised by how much people will help you out and hook you up with what you need. As a note, UThrift didn't submit a budget for almost 1.5 years since we sourced almost all of our overheads secondhand from the community. And again, these are all just a starting point. And once you get going, your needs will change and you'll figure out what works and what doesn't. So just take it one event at a time and build from there. So I would say next slide, but I'm not sure where they went, but I can just keep moving on. I'm going to be talking about member recruitment.
We'll get to slides in just 1 second. Allison lost power, so I'll have the slides shortly, but you can keep going.
Okay, sounds good. So we're on slide 8, if that helps. So we're going to be talking more about maintaining momentum once we've built our thrift swap and expanding that into a movement. As you continue to grow, you will need dedicated members. Where to find them? Like-minded organizations, activity fairs, email blasts, cool classes at your first event. I recommend having a rolling application process or interest period because as you have more events, more and more people will be interested in getting involved. And definitely have clear expectations of their commitment. And a note on this is to be easy on yourself and others as you navigate the balance between being a leader and a peer. But keep in mind that things happen. What will you do if they cancel right before, show up late for the 4th time? Just make sure that your volunteers know what is wanted and needed and what is not. In order to communicate these expectations, it helps to determine an internal structure. Will there be a president, directors, committees, chairs, volunteers? And these leadership roles are a great way to delegate reoccurring responsibilities, as well as incentivize volunteers to get more involved to build their skill set and also their resume. It really helps for everyone to have a defined role so that they are confident and equipped that things will run smoothly. And once you have a good system for communication and organizing, you can start to get creative with keeping these members engaged with meetings, hangouts, game nights, photo shoots, playlists, like I said, interaction on social media, and so many other ways. And we did this by having a central platform like Slack or Google Drive, where everyone can find the resources and information that they need. And on that note, document everything, including your progress, meeting notes, ideas and suggestions, potential partnerships, and especially pictures. You'll want to have this information somewhere central, and it helps people to understand what's going on and connect further to the organization and the mission. I think one of my proudest accomplishments out of UThrift was all the amazing friendships that came from it. This is an amazing opportunity to build a community. So I think that's a good way to look at it. And looking to expanding that community even further, we're now on slide 9. It would be, I see a hand. If you wanna.
We can pause for Elodie's question while we are working on the slides, no problem.
Yeah, here we go. This is helpful for you guys. So I know you mentioned like having like a president and all that. How did you, like, I'm thinking like, I'm in like sorority brain. How did you guys like vote to have these presidents? And then like, once you stepped down or like you graduated, how did you pass along those responsibilities? Like, how did you decide who would be doing what in those situations?
Yeah, so we didn't do a voting structure. We did interviews with everyone who was interested. So we had so many different positions available. Our structure was a president, 6 directors, committee chairs, then committees, then volunteers. There were a ton of switchovers that needed to happen by the end of the semester. So we just took our time with it and we sat down with every single person, held interviews. And that's something that's written in our constitution, that at the end of every semester, when a role becomes vacant, that the executive committee will make a decision together to fill in the roles. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. Okay. So thinking about expanding your outreach in the community, we had a designated photo and video taker at every event. And I'm sure it is no surprise that social media was our #1 asset. We mainly used Instagram. Like I said earlier, we gained our following by having people follow us in order to take their initial 1 free item, even if they had nothing to donate. And once they took that item, we would ask if we could take a picture of them holding up and tag them. And this promoted engagement because they would then repost it. Every week, we had our volunteers share on their personal Instagrams, stories, and flyers with our hours and location for the week. This was another great and easy way to spread the word. So use your social media to share what, when, where, how, and why, and have the event details, links, or whatever else you need people to know easily available and on display, like in a bio or an email subject line. Especially when working with students, you just gotta make it obvious. So another thing to mention is TikTok. This got big after I graduated, but this is a great opportunity to share inventory, inspiration, upcycled before and afters, event recaps, challenges, huge opportunity to be creative. UThrift also worked to be in campus publications. We sent out newsletters every month with our upcoming events, crosswords, like find of the week, how many donations we received, and that just really engaged and I think connected people to what we were doing. We would go speak at chapters, like Elodie mentioned, at sorority and fraternity chapters. We would speak at meetings, at related classes like sustainability and environmental science classes, and we'd also promote credit giveaways that would help engage people and inspire them to donate. And then just a final note in terms of community outreach is to represent and reflect your community. Make sure you have a variety of sizes, options for all genders and gender identities, have clothes with your school logo, and show off the trending pieces that you've seen people wear on your campus or at your school. We'll go to the next slide. Another way to get people involved and engaged is with unique events. So aim to have strong partnerships with campus organizations, and this is really helpful when you're getting started, with like-minded clubs, related classes, student government, Greek life. And just a note with this is to be intentional with who you are recruiting. You want to represent the entirety of campus. You can also look to off-campus partnerships with nonprofits, charities, shelters, artists, and even other thrift stores. At the end of every semester, we would give our excess inventory to a nonprofit partnerships. And because of that, we were able to have an impact beyond our campus. in our local community and give to those in need. Having partners is a great way to combine your reach with theirs. It's a win-win. And it also just comes in handy to have these connections and perspectives. You never know what they can do to help you out or what insight they might be able to offer you. We mentioned this earlier, but we had photo shoots where models would show off their favorite UThrift outfits. These were really cool and fun and a great way to get content for our social media. We also hosted hands-on events like workshops where you could upcycle with iron-on patches, pins, bleach pens, tie-dye, and embroidery. We also offered mending and life skill classes like learning how to sew, how to make a t-shirt tote bag, and just other fun DIYs to get creative and resourceful. And one of my favorite events was our signature fashion show, where student models walked the runway and showed off their favorite UThrift or sustainable fashion look. So with all that being said, have fun with it. Next slide, and just to kind of give some key points. Based on my own experience, there are going to be some ups and downs when it comes to getting started, but way more ups. So here are some of the things I've learned and to keep in mind throughout your process. A thrift swap is a really creative, unique, and rewarding way to connect with people, your campus, your community, the environment, and beyond. To do that, stay in touch with your mission. UThrift was both social and sustainable. That's the foundation of it all. Keep it simple. And if you're passionate about it, it will show and it will eventually spread. Be open-minded. Not every single person will understand or be receptive to that passion, and that's okay. I would say to use their limiting beliefs as an opportunity to strengthen your own values and try to look at it from their perspective so that you can work out a way to resonate with them and meet them in the middle. So for example, Miami is a very fashion and trend-oriented city. When UThrift first started, thrifting wasn't really as normalized and mainstream and popular as it has grown to be today. There was definitely a lot of stigma and confusion around what we were doing, but that ended up being motivation to educate and inform them. The slow fashion movement is intersectional. It is vast and connects so many systems: race, class, politics, government, international relations, human rights, labor laws, gender, the environment, and so much more. And because of that, slow fashion provides an opportunity to connect with and relate to every single person you will meet. So have informational resources that speak a universal language. Break it down for someone who may have never heard of a thrift swap or thrifting or secondhand fashion in their life. And this will allow you to step outside of your comfort zone and have diverse collaborations and build a one-of-a-kind, multifaceted community. And finally, be flexible. Like I said, there are going to be setbacks, especially working in an administrative, bureaucratic system like a school or a college campus, but they are also there to support you and have so many resources. So use them and use your resources also here with Remake. Next slide. To wrap things up, this is a suggested timeline to get things moving. This could obviously take way more or way less time depending on your scope. There are so many different routes you could go. For me, it started just from collecting donations from my friends and yelling out free clothes every week to anyone that would listen. And what I presented here today is everything that came out of that. And finally, the last slide is just let's stay connected. So here's my information. I'm also in the Remake Hub and Slack. Definitely take a look at UThrift's Instagram. We have a great link tree in our bio that has a ton of information. Give us a follow. And yeah, I would love nothing more than to meet with you all and offer advice for your journeys. It has always been a dream of mine to spread UThrift to other campuses, so please don't hesitate to reach out. And I hope today was inspiring, informational, and I can't wait to see what you do moving forward. Thank you so much. You can answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Nika. It's incredible what you've mapped out. I'm sure people will have questions because it looks so pro, but where you got to is really an incredibly beautiful little shop that people could come and exchange at.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate it. I'm super proud of everything. And the statistics from this last semester, even I was sent to it by our president, is incredible. It's almost double what we accomplished in the 4 years I was leading it. So this is an opportunity and it's really growing fast. And I see we have a question from Elodie.
I'm back with another question. I am just like out of curiosity, I hope I didn't miss this when you said this, but how many hours a week did you spend on this project? Like, did it take up a whole lot of time? I know you guys had like a really big team, but I'm just thinking of like, if you are in other extracurriculars and then you're balancing schoolwork, like how long did it take you to work on this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, this was my baby. I could have spent all day, every day working on this. But like I mentioned, we had a lot of different roles. So we had our exec team that would probably spend, we had meetings once a week that were an hour. And then outside of that, maybe 2 to 3. Because once we had our recurring pop-up space like down to a T, we knew what we were doing. It was really just volunteering at the event. That would be every Wednesday from 10 to 3. So that's 5 hours once a week. And then we also add other events like workshops and partnerships that would maybe be another 3 hours a week. And because we had so many volunteers to kind of fill those slots in, it wasn't, anything too crazy. But like I said, I think the biggest like way to structure the amount of time you're giving is through designated responsibilities. So like I said, exec, I think, could be working a lot on this, doing all the behind the scenes with our Instagram, partnerships, outreach, newsletters. But if you're just a volunteer, you just come once a week for your shift. So you can really structure it however you need.
Maybe the other thing, Nika, to speak to is you found support through some of the other clubs or people that you would meet that you could learn from. That's a really great way to kind of get started with anything on a college campus, I think.
Definitely. So yeah, as I mentioned, UThrift started out as a student government initiative, as an eco agency green committee program. So we had a ton of resources available to us then, and I was connected to all these amazing sustainable student leaders who had so much insight and who had planned their own programs in the years prior. So they were really helpful in helping me navigate the structures of a school and who I need to talk to, who's a good advisor, who do I talk to submit a budget, So definitely go and learn people's names and talk to them. I see we have another question.
Hi. Yeah, thank you. That was really so great. Answers a lot of my questions. I have, I think, 3 more, and I think they're more going to be judgment calls. So, but I'm just going to ask anyway. It's a school swap for kids 3rd grade to 6th grade. So they're little. My kid is 7, so it's like 7 to 12, 13. Should we set a limit? I've seen online it says set a limit to like 10 items each. Otherwise, you're just going to get overwhelmed with stuff. Is that something that you would recommend?
In terms of donating? Sorry.
In terms of like the swap itself, we're just going to do a one-night swap store. And we're going to collect the stuff the week leading up. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll be there in the mornings, gathering the stuff, putting it into the sections. And a suggestion is to just tell people it's 10 items, and then they'll get 10 tokens that they can spend on the night of we're teaching them about a barter, like how to create a barter economy and stuff like that. So they get 10 tokens.
I would probably start small.
Is 10 too much?
I mean, for 3 different 3rd through 6th grade. I don't know. And I think people might not bring up to 10. I would say start there because it would be a little more or less so we have to manage that. I would just say you have an inventory available, like the space of everything in between the days of discussion and redistribution.
I'm sorry, you're going in and out. No, I can't hear you. Like your volume is going in and out.
Sure how to do that.
It might be.
I would just add. I'm not sure why we're echoing.
If there's more than 2 people on the call, it echoes sometimes. I'll mute myself while you talk.
Maybe is that better? Hello. Good. Okay, great. Sorry, I was like kind of thrown off there. I would say 10 is a good place to start because you probably not every single person will bring 10. You'll get a little more, a little bit less. I would say the most important consideration is storage between your collection date and the redistribution date. So if you have the ability to take all that stuff, why not? But then also have a plan for the things that might not get taken. So I think it's just about like in terms of transportation, we're going to keep it all and just think of it through that lens. If that.
Yeah, that's good. And we do have all that in place. This is also maybe just an advice question. And it came up actually in your video there. Somebody said they saw somebody on campus, maybe wearing the thing that they wore. We're concerned that kids are going to be uncomfortable because in this age group, they might be uncomfortable if they see a piece of their clothing on another kid or if they're wearing clothing from another kid. I'm just wondering if anybody has any ideas on how to normalize that for kids. Is it just by doing this and seeing what happens? Or does anyone have any ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I think that by doing it is a great place to start. The first thing that came to my mind when you said that is the last event we did in my senior year is we did a loved by campaign. So for every t-shirt we donated, we had a little tag that said, this item used to be loved by Nika Seider. And I was like, oh my gosh, like my friend gave this, I get to keep it now. All these amazing memories are in it. So that's something that came to my mind. I don't know if you have the bandwidth necessarily to do that for every item that we donated, but maybe even having like 5 to 10 items on display saying, look, like this used to be my t-shirt when I was little and look at all these memories and how cool it was. So that's something you could think about doing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really love that. That's a great answer. And my final question is, one of the moms asked me, I used to have a luxury store, so we would hang everything because hanging is the best. And one mom was like, we're going to hang everything, like even t-shirts. And I was like, I think so. I would like to. Would you suggest, that's like the gold standard even in thrifting and this kind of thing?
So what we did was had 2 racks with hangers that we had our jeans, nicer blouses, jackets hung up, and then we had t-shirt bins. So we had so many like University of Miami, like football t-shirts, clubs that people would just dig through. So that's how we separated ours. If you have the ability to hang everything, then I totally would. You know, it helps people and it keeps things organized and it'll make your setup and breakdown easier, I would say. But in terms of like t-shirts, we just had a huge bin of them because we had so many. But if we had the ability to hang, I would say, yeah. And it makes it feel more fancy.
Yeah, it does. Okay. That just gives me the confidence to go back because I was like, oh, maybe I'm being too persnickety, but okay. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
I'm looking for, you can send images and if you're in the Slack of how your event goes, I would love to hear about it. And
we're doing it in November for Black Friday because Black Friday has suddenly become a Canadian thing, even though it's not even part of our culture, but sell. So it's a counter to Black Friday and it gives me time to do the education part with the kids and then set them up for the sale.
Amazing. Congratulations. It'd be so great.
I was just going to add, Miranda, and I worked in a children's one before, and it was helpful to sort of put them by size categories on the table so they knew which table to walk up to. That would just be one other suggestion.
Thank you. That's perfect.
All right. Any last questions? I haven't really been eyeballing the chat, so I'm not sure if there's anything in there. But alrighty, maybe this is a good place to. Oh, I see one.
I did have one more question.
Yeah.
As a former retailer, not knowing how to proceed, this is a sidebar. Was there any possibility for you making money off of it? Like, is there a monetization way that a person running these? Is there a future in this for me, or is this like a volunteer thing? Am I a volunteer or do I have a future of a job?
Well, that's my question too, you know. I spent a long time, my last year, working with our business school to maybe figure out a way to make this a legitimate nonprofit or a business that I could, you know, flesh out. I think there definitely is, you know, it depends on if you want to keep it at a school, I would say if you're working with elementary and middle school, maybe not if you're wanting to engage with students and, you know, they're not going to have a lot of disposable income. But in general, yeah, I think like secondhand fashion is a huge up and coming industry and there are tons of opportunities. Maybe one way to look at it is doing an entrance fee. You know, if you want to donate $5, if you are able to come and participate in a swap and you can recirculate that funds, that's a place that we were looking to start, is doing something like that. But at the end of the day, we decided to keep everything free just to keep our inventory moving in and out. And also because, you know, there is a huge need on campus communities, like students need the free resources. But yeah, that is the question. I think
I wasn't meaning for the school. I'm sort of just learning. I figure I'll learn how to do. I'll cut my teeth on doing it here, and then I just thought of, you know, maybe even my luxury men's clients from the past. I could do swaps in the future, but I wondered if you had any thoughts on that. And I see it's a question on a lot of people's minds.
yeah, I think so. And maybe Emily or Kate could answer more to this about their experience and the types of people who are involved with Remake, because there are so many swaps that go on and there are more business structures in place that I would maybe not be as familiar with.
I was just going to add that that might be a great topic to bring up with our entrepreneurship meetup group at some point. That could be a really interesting discussion idea. So I'm jotting that down and maybe we can get that on the calendar for the future. Because I know we talked about like, how do we continue this conversation and supporting folks who are interested in like implementing these ideas.
Great. And then Elodie, I see another question.
Yeah, quick question. I hope you guys can hear me. I'm on the road. But do you have any like interest in expanding this to other universities? Like I'm in sorority mindset, but like, you know how they have like a national headquarters and then they have chapters at each university. I feel like, especially just like knowing where I went to school, I feel like people would be super interested in that. So do you have any like plans to potentially expand it?
Yes, that would be my dream, is to have a bunch of UThrifts all over the country. We were reached out by several universities, mainly right before COVID hit, which kind of put a stall in our plans. But actually, we did expand to a high school in Seattle. My friend Olivia's cousin, Mila Laporta, started her own UThrift at her high school. So that would be an amazing next chapter for UThrift. And again, I think you're right. It would be like having a nationals HQ and setting it up in a chapter format so that people could, you know, have the same structure and the same resources to kind of copy and paste what we do. But yes, that has always been on my mind. And this is a great first step, this workshop, to kind of empowering people to spread the word and have their own thrifts. All righty. All
So
right.
I think we're probably wrapping up then. Nika, thank you so much. And all of this will be on the hub, on the hub, and you can access it there.
All right. Thank you all for coming today. And if you have any questions that come up later, feel free to email me, Slack me, Instagram, whatever. So thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. And I hope it was helpful and useful.
Thank you. Bye.
Yay.
Excellent. Amazing. Oh.